Good evening, fellow veterans. My name is Gary Ferguson, founder and CEO of Pathways for Veterans, a national nonprofit. I am honored to be hosting this evening's episode of Veterans Helping Veterans Television. First off, let me start by acknowledging my friend, Cheryl Schaefer, for making it possible for me to once again share my experience, strength, and hope. Cheryl is a Vietnam-era veteran who created the Veterans Helping Veterans Television Network along with her team here at Midpen Media Center. Tonight's episode is dedicated to all those veterans who took the time to download the first 3 chapters of A Good Day to Die. I have been blown away by the hundreds of downloads over the last several weeks, but more importantly, the profound email responses from veterans sharing their experience while reading the book, A Good Day to Die. I am humbled by your comments. The vast majority of you commented included a request for further information on the research that we do at Pathways and how we and our programs work. Tonight's episode will answer many of those questions that have been asked about Pathways, how it was started, the programs currently being offered, and the pilot studies at Pathways Research Centers. In August of 2009, while applying for my VA benefits, I was overwhelmed with online runaround and the nightmare of in-person paperwork. Trying to maneuver the VA system through the maze at the VA nearly caused me to give up, while my PTSD flared into rage and disgust. Transitioning from military mindset to civilian mindset can be very daunting, to say the least. How was it possible we as a country learned nothing from the betrayal of our veterans in Vietnam some 35 years ago? How is it possible our returning veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq to be in such a state? Vietnam veterans refer to it as the China stare. The lights were on, but no one was home. My intention for tonight's episode is to provide our returning veterans with a roadmap for transformation back into civilian life without all the drama from the trauma of deployment. If there's one thing I've learned over the last 30 years working with veterans, is that they don't know who to trust other than their buddies who are no longer by their side and have their six. Once again, I have broken down tonight's episode into 3 parts for easier understanding. Part 1, where am I now? Without my mission that has given me purpose. Part 2, who am I, if not my military identity? And Part 3, who can I trust as my trusted source in my civilian life? Part 1, within several days of being returned to civilian life, my first question was, where am I? Your military training teaches you to always know your location and the resources you have at hand. Is it possible to get to where you're going without knowing where you're currently at? In order to reach your objective, you must take stock of your overall situation in order to proceed. Good orderly direction is ingrained in your military mindset and magnified throughout your civilian life. It took me several years after being discharged to learn to survive in the civilian world, let alone how to thrive in it. Now, some 30 years later, between applying my benefits and learning how to maneuver in the government bureaucracy, I realized that somebody had to step up and help these young veterans returning to civilian life before it was too late. In 2010, Pathways for Veterans was founded to provide support to our veterans in order to avoid the pitfalls while returning to civilian life. Our mission was clear and simple: to provide a safe environment where all veterans would have the experience of being heard and were given the tools to reimagine themselves in mind, body, and spirit. All Pathways services were to be provided at no cost to the veteran or their families. Now Pathways Research Centers are now providing cutting-edge science along with new technologies to support veterans in the relief from their symptoms of anxiety, stress, and insomnia. We are veterans helping veterans without all the belief systems that separate us from becoming responsible for our individual well-being. The starting point at Pathways is located on the main navigation bar, simply by contacting us. Then you'll receive an acknowledgement letter for your service from Pathways thanking you and providing you a password to unlock the members page. The only requirement for membership is a desire to become responsible for the outcome in your life. The first step consists of the VIA survey. That reveals your individual character strengths. These strengths are instruments in the development of your belief systems. Belief systems are generally formed in two ways: by our expectation or inferences, deductions, or by accepting what others tell us to be true. Most of our core beliefs are formed when we are children with the influences from outside sources like our parents, environmental conditions, social conditioning, and our peers. The truest definition of belief is the power that causes things to happen in one's life. Most people define beliefs as their inward convictions or feelings of certainty about what something means. A belief is both mental and emotional and are deeply rooted with it and our subconscious level. The root of behavior changes lies within one's identity. When I realized that if I was going to change my experience of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, I knew I must first understand who I was when no one was looking. In order for me to change my circumstances in my life, I must first change my identity. I could not even begin unless I gained the knowledge of who I was and how I got this way. My definition of identity is: who are you? The way you think about yourself, the way you are viewed by the world, and the characteristics that define you. Core identity is the essence of who a person is. The unique core identity can be identified or described by attributes that belong to and described as the individual. According to well-known research, there are 24 character strengths. These character strengths are given at the moment of birth and are shared through the influences in our formative years. The classification of character strengths are broken down into 5 areas: wisdom and knowledge, which is identified as creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perceptions. Courage, identified as bravery, perseverance, honesty, and zest. Humility, identified as love, kindness, and social intelligence. Justice, identified as teamwork, fairness, and leadership. And temperance, identified as forgiveness, humility, prudence, and self-regulations. Further studies also show that personality traits are also something that you are born with. These 4 personality types are described as novelty-seeking, characterized by impulsive actions, harm avoidance, marked by permissive and shyness, reward dependence, demonstrated by addictive personality, and persistence, who are people driven to be industrious, hardworking, and a perfectionist. My personal type, reward dependence. My top 5 character strengths: spirituality, perspective, love, creativity, and bravery. Once you have determined your personality traits and character strengths, you have the basic information to prepare yourself for your personal transformation journey. Step 2, you're given access to Philosopher's Notes, which will give you an opportunity to read cliff notes from some of the greatest minds and writers of our time. Can you imagine gaining information and insights from readers of hundreds of books in a fraction of the time, with twice the retention rate on subjects that interest or inspire you? Step 3 gives you direct access to extraordinary body of work by Brian Klimmer, an experiential trainer and a master of his time. These 3 steps give you access to the curriculum for living that are online and available under no cost to the veteran. The completion of this outlined program online can qualify you for a scholarship opportunity to participate in one of the Pathways pilot studies at one of our strategic partners or research centers. Now, A Good Day to Die was a direct result of several years of my personal self-examination in an effort to relieve my authentic self. Who was I without all the false identities? I used to hide from you because of what you would think of me out of fear. Having recently completed A Good Day to Die, I now feel compelled to share with you how I came to believe in what I call my spirit truth. Spirit truth resides in all of us and is invisible to the naked eye. It can only be revealed through doing one's shadow work, or what others would call mirror work. The primary purpose of this work is to reveal who you really are when no one is looking. Just as one cannot see the back of their head without a mirror, we cannot see our authentic self without stripping away the layers of false identities that create the mask of our inauthenticity. Spiritual truth is not for the faint-hearted and only enhances the quality of one's life. Keep in mind there are only 2 kinds of people in this world: those who say I can and those who say I can't. Either way, they're both right. The event that occurred in our lives are outward projections of what's lurking in our subconscious mind. That includes our thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and beliefs. Who are we is who we think, feel, and believe. This is in a nutshell. Thoughts become things. It can't be that simple. And yet mainstream science says that's the way it works. So a good result was a result of my personal awakening, my state of consciousness. Kind of like a caterpillar who one day, for no apparent reason, weaves a cocoon and enters this chrysalis stage of life. During this phase, a transformation takes place at a cellular level until one day the butterfly emerges and takes flight. What does it really mean to wake up? It is fairly simple to say that one's awakening is a journey from the world of what you know to the world of you don't know and you never will. One's awakening comes and goes in direct proportion to their willingness to let go of what was and embrace what is in every moment. There is no awakened state as a final destination, something to arrive at. Only the journey. No matter how long it takes, challenging it becomes, the journey far exceeds any bumps or bruises along the way. The end result of full awakening is freedom from personal suffering, clarity of mind, boundless joy, inner peace, and the ability to live an incredible, fulfilling life. The awakened state of being holds everything we have, even desire, and much more. There are several stages of awakening, and when you understand each stage and where you're at on your own journey, you can recognize the signposts along the way and avoid the pitfalls. There's no right or wrong way to wake up. Just like art, it's all beautiful and perfect through the eyes of the beholder. Stage 1 of awakening, we are all mostly asleep, and we don't even know that we're asleep. We are entrenched in mass consciousness and going through the motions of life, generally following the rules of culture and the laws of the land. We don't question our reality or seek answers beyond what is necessary for survival and maintaining a lifestyle. Our identities define us. We live without the construct of religion, culture, or society, and we even play the part of victim or perpetrator while unconscious programming runs us. We see the world in black and white, good or bad, right and wrong. We likely possess a rigid model of the world according to our specific programming because there is a great desire to fit in and be accepted in life. It is common to sacrifice our needs and compassion for others in the value to survive and to receive approval from others in the communities that we live in. Self-worth is likely conditional, an attachment to our identity and the roles we play. While there may be other means of providing what we're worthy of, the ego generally runs the show. We likely believe we are the ego with little or no awareness. That is the greater part within us. During several of these stages, our happiness is based upon externals. Therefore, in order to feel happy, we try to control our reality by controlling other people, places, and things. We attempt to control our lives for both happiness and security, and is more likely than not that our emotions rule our actions. Our reactions are based on our moment-to-moment feelings, and we make no connection between the thoughts, beliefs, and our experiences in the construction of the reality that we create. That being said, we have no direct ability to constantly create our reality despite our unconscious nature. During this stage of several of these awarenesses, feelings that come through us are sometimes more than we can handle and we want and choose to give up. The awakening stages vary for individual to individual, particularly based upon, in my case, my military experience. The first signs of movement for me came from my unconscious desire to continue to serve others and not really having a roadmap. When I started to come up with these uncomfortable feelings, I knew that there was something wrong and missing. When I started to develop the program at Pathways, I sought out some of the greatest minds that I could find. I sought their counsel, I went through their training, I asked their advice, and we created the program that we now have at Pathways for Veterans. We question our identities, but mostly we still hold on to it because we must continue to prove our worth, and we do not yet know ourselves outside of our human identity. I had no idea who I was when I returned from Vietnam. I had very little idea who I was going to become during those early years without a mentor or a program that I could go to that I could trust. It took me 17 years before I sobered up and looked for the solution. I continued to look for the solution on the outside. What I realized that unless I looked inside, I would never find the freedom from the illusion of self. I started to realize that if I wanted to take my power back, I must take responsibility. So I started working with some veterans, and we went through a process of self-examination through group conversations, asking and understanding the question, who am I? Why am I? And why am I here? Although we were all searching for answers, we all still held on to certain limited beliefs that kept us enslaved in our own made-up realities. We knew from previous attempts that challenges of our belief systems would create the experience of fear and bring us back to keep us a little asleep a little longer. In our discomfort, we made up our minds that reality is something that we have to create for ourselves, not based upon our past or the illusion of self-interest, but upon our intention or the purpose, why we exist. Most people that go in the military exist to serve, and when they take the opportunity to serve away from their behavioral matrix, they are lost. A man without purpose has no place to go, other than substance abuse, broken relationships, lack of jobs that give them value. We all know the plight of the veteran. We see it every day in our lives, in our communities, and on our streets, and in our hospitals. And yet there seems to be nothing we can do about it because nobody has the consciousness or the grit to call it what it is. It's learned helplessness based upon a state of fear. and most veterans don't know how to fit in or who to trust. So at Pathways, we made the decision in 2010. 19 years ago, I started doing this work with veterans before Pathways, working with homeless veterans. And for many, many years, that provided the access to the freedom that I enjoyed as a building contractor. But that soon ran out. So I created Pathways for Veterans to create programs that could be delivered online anywhere in the world, anytime, 24/7, and any veteran anywhere could reach out, and there would be someone there to support them in what they were going. Well, we have found that our emotions are generally very strong, and we may feel our most fragile or vulnerable when we ask for help. Most veterans don't realize it is our issues that are coming up to the surface that need to be healed and released. They cannot come to the surface if we don't learn how to listen without our opinions. There's nothing wrong with veterans. They are not broken. Most people don't get that. Veterans do. The ones that go out and serve their country and risk their life in order that we can maintain the lifestyles that we supposedly cherish. Beyond this, I don't know what to say. Pathways for Veterans is one of the few nonprofits out there that actually stands and delivers in spite of the yakkadoodle that turns into wackadoodle. Most people don't understand belief systems and are disconnected and don't know how to make a difference. That's not the case at Pathways. So during the process of awakening and introspection, immense personal growth takes place, and people often discover that they had no idea who they are until they go through this program. Once they go through the program, they have a whole renewed sense of self-confidence, and things that used to cause them to react no longer affect them. They're able to respond. And when they are able to respond and react, then they have an opportunity to not only heal, but they make better choices. Our choices for veterans are what gets us in trouble. I choose to keep my secrets. I didn't want you to know who I was for what you would think of me. So I held my mud. I never said a word. It wasn't until I got sober, and some 30 years after that, that I realized that as long as I keep my secrets, I'll stay sick. So I no longer have secrets. The Pathways program and the protocols that we developed through the help of a lot of veterans, because these protocols are not a result of me. They're a result of me asking the right questions of veterans who trusted me to go through the program to get their life back, because they knew there was something missing. There wasn't something wrong. There was something missing in their life, and that was the freedom to be fully self-expressed. Not because of where they had been and what they had done, because who they were, and the compassion and the passion that drove them to put their life on the line so that we can enjoy the freedoms back here home. And then they come home, and what do they get from us? Not much. A lot of backslapping, a lot of glad-handing, and we'll get to you someday. In the meantime, take these medications. They'll support you until we can get to you. Well, I'd say we could do much better than that. I know for me personally, I've spent a lifetime giving back, primarily because it's who I am. It's what gives me joy in the morning when I get up. I can make it about me, or I can make it about you. If I make it about me, I don't have a Chinaman's chance. My ego will take over, and I'll be self-righteous and arrogant by the time I get out of bed. So what I would suggest to you is, if you're taking the time to listen to this video, and you take the time to go online and download the free chapters of the book, A Good Day to Die, and something in that process resonates you, that you reach out and send us an email and tell us where you're at, what you're up to, and how you need or would like to proceed so that you can have the life that you richly deserve. Today's technology and the wisdom of the miracles that technology has provided, there is absolutely no reason that anyone, anywhere, should suffer in this country or anywhere in the world. And with that, I'd like to thank you and offer up one final word, and that is to say hi to a veteran, and God bless our veterans. Thank you.